I've been sub 10% body fat most of my life, and I can tell you it didn't actually make me happier, it made me more miserable. I'm gonna tell you what it takes to get down to 10% body fat, the downsides of reaching it, and I'm gonna tell you a more realistic approach in body fat that you should be aiming for as a guy over 30. Let's jump into it. Okay, so you might be thinking, what does it actually take to get down to 10% body fat? I get 6 things that I'm gonna rip through quickly, and then we're gonna talk about the downside of actually reaching 10% body fat. So 6 main things. The first thing I have is you have to dial in your calories 90 to 95% of the time. Doesn't have to be 100%. We're not perfect, but the vast majority of the time, you got to make sure you are absolutely dialed in when it comes to hitting your calorie target. And more on that on another video. We're not going to dive into that right now. The second thing you need to do is you have to consistently hit 4 to 5 strength workouts per week. Not a few weeks in a row, not a month in a row, consistently 4 to 5 strength workouts per week. The third thing you need to do is you have to walk about 10,000 to 13,000 steps every single day. That might seem like a pretty big number. It is, but remember, if you're trying to get a 10% body fat, it's a pretty aggressive approach that you're going to have to take to get you that 10% body fat range. Number 4 is you have to hit at least 0.8 grams per body weight in pounds when it comes to your protein targets. So if you weigh 200 pounds, for example, you have to get 160 grams pretty much every single day, and you have to do this consistently. And if you don't, you're just not gonna reach your target. The fifth thing you need to do is you have to sleep consistently about 7 to 8 hours every single night. Now, I will say, there are outliers for people who can function on 5 to 6 hours sleep, but for 95% of guys, sleeping 7 to 8 hours every single night will be essential to getting to 10% body fat for the recovery, energy, and even hunger overall control. And the last thing I have for you is you have to meal plan and or meal prep consistently. So again, we're not talking a few days of the week or I should say maybe once a week, once in a while where you're prepping. You have to have this dialed in. You gotta know what you're eating, you gotta execute it, and more often than not, you're basically eating very similar meals, which I do recommend, but can also get a little bit boring at the same time. So this six main things it takes. Obviously, there's other minor things like cardio, macronutrients, stuff like that. But those are 6 main things. Now, let's talk about some of the downsides of why reaching 10% body fat is not a realistic approach for men over 30. Okay, downside number 1 is time is the biggest factor. So most guys over 30 years old, we just don't have the time to basically do exactly what I said, those 6 to maybe 8 things. So for a lot of guys, we start off good when we're trying to get a 10% body fat, but we just can't sustain it because life gets in the way, whether it's work, family, maybe just overall fatigue, stress, and then we just start to fall off the wagon. So yes, you got to prioritize your time, of course, no matter what goal you're trying to do in fitness. But if you're trying to get a 10% body fat, you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot more time and effort than you think. And you gotta make sure if you do want to attack this straight on, which we'll dive into later in the video, that you have the time and capacity to do it. Downside number 2, less eating out and less drinking. Now I can tell you, I was this guy. Like I was always at, parties or restaurants or wherever, and I'm basically not ordering anything or eating anything because I'm just trying to maintain my physique. And I can tell you, it gets pretty annoying after a while. Obviously, I still watch my calories. I work out. I'm probably more around like a 12% body fat range right now, which I find a lot more enjoyable and sustainable. You might be thinking like 10 to 12%, not a big difference. It is when you get down to that, lower number. So you just gotta know that if you are trying to get 10% body fat, you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot of social events. Whether it's not going out, whether it's not eating at the restaurant, whether it's not eating at your buddy's barbecue, whether it's just like not drinking altogether. These are things that you're gonna have to sacrifice, and you have to ask yourself if you truly wanna get down to 10% body fat. The third downside is you're gonna start feeling more tired and frustrated while you're chasing it. Now, I'm sure you guys know, but when you're trying to lose fat, of course, your energy levels are naturally going to drop. The reason is very simple. Calories, guys, is basically a unit of energy. The more calories you take in, the more energy you're typically going to have. So when you're consuming like less calories and you're doing this for a long period of time, you are going to feel tired, I promise you. And I remember being so fatigued, especially when I was like really starting to lean down, and it's just not motivating. And the reason why I say it's frustrating trying to chase it also is just because it is a pretty, like, I don't want to say extreme goal, but a very tough thing to accomplish. And you'll probably be stuck one day. Let's say if you lost a lot of fat around that, 12 to 15% body fat range, and you're gonna get frustrated and you're gonna do probably extreme measures to try to get down to 10% body fat where you are kind of seeing that full six pack. So lower energy levels and frustration, guys, is definitely a downfall or a downside of trying to get 10% body fat. The fourth thing, and this is probably the biggest one, temporary satisfaction when you do reach that goal, but always wanting more after that. So what I mean by that is when you get to that 10% range and those abs are popping, you're gonna feel great for like a few days, maybe even a week, maybe even a month. Like you're gonna feel fantastic, you're gonna feel proud, you're gonna be accomplished, which is exactly the feelings you should be having. But here's the part that no one really talks to you about. When you reach that goal, you're gonna want more. Whether it's like, oh man, I want more muscle, or maybe you're even just like self-conscious with your body, even though you are super lean, you're gonna be thinking like, okay, what can I do to get better next? When you accomplish that goal, guys, it's weird, kind of like anything in life, you're always gonna want to chase something else. Even I watched a documentary on Netflix with Aaron Rodgers, and I remember him saying like he worked his whole life to win a Super Bowl, but then he won the Super Bowl, like he was happy for that day, but he just kind of felt like meh and bleh after. The same kind of feeling goes to 10% body fat. I'm not saying it's that extreme, of course, as winning the Super Bowl, but the same rule applies. You're gonna feel happy, you're gonna feel accomplished for a little bit, but you're gonna wonder what's next and like what more can you do to even improve your physique. And it goes on, and this is a very endless cycle. All right, guys, I'm gonna leave you with this one big question, and I'm gonna tell you a realistic guide that I think most men should be aiming for. Given all the information I told you today, you got to ask yourself, is getting down to 10% body fat worth it to you? For some of you, maybe the answer is yes. Like maybe this is something that you want to achieve. You know the time, the effort, the sacrifice. And even though you're going to kind of feel frustrated, tired, hungry, sacrificing a bunch of things like I mentioned, this is something that you truly want. And if that's you, then absolutely go for it. And there's nothing wrong to do it. But I think for 95% of men, if not more, you just need a better approach. And getting 10% body fat is just not realistic. I can tell you myself firsthand, like I said before, I'm probably around 12, maybe even 13% body fat right now, but I can actually live my life and enjoy my life. I go out, I have drinks, I eat out, I have some snacks, and I never really feel guilty. I'm still dialed in with my nutrition, of course, my workouts, my walking, all those things, but I have more room for error, of course, and I never really feel stressed if I'm having like a snack that I quote unquote shouldn't be eating if I was trying to get down to 10% body fat. So the choice is yours, guys. I always like to recommend for guys, if you're at like a 12 to 14, maybe 15% body fat range with some good muscle, that's a good spot to be. It's a realistic approach. You can sustain it. You're not going to feel like crap, and you're going to be proud of what you accomplish also. Because when you get to 12% to 10% or even 13% to 10%, there's really not that big of a difference in terms of how you feel, but you're gonna have to do so much more work to decrease that extra 3%, if that makes sense. Let me know if this resonated for you guys. I just kind of want to, dive deep into a bit of a picture that we really don't talk about. We always talk about get down 10% body fat, get shredded. Well, if you want to do it, that's fine. I just want to kind of give you a breakdown in terms of what to expect when you are trying to reach that 10% body fat goal. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.